Hey everybody, welcome back to Dynamic Communication. This is part two. We were talking about moving up energy levels, not being able to see those energy levels above you. Like if you're angry and you're seeing red, you're not going to know, oh, I can be forgiving, I can be compassionate. Those aren't the thoughts that automatically come into a person's mind when they're stuck in their own crap. So, and when people are in higher levels, they can see down and they can move in and throughout those levels. So when your overall communication level, when you're communicating with people, you can realize, hey, check this out. I can go down to a level 2 and relate to them as a level 5. I'm peaceful, but I'm relating to you on a level 2 level, so you'll get where I'm coming from. Because if I'm being all peace and win-win, and you're like, oh, that pain in the ass cut me off in traffic, and my wife yelled at me today, and she burned my breakfast, or whatever, and she thinks I should be cooking my own breakfast. If they're at that level, they're never going to be able to see win-win because they can't get out of their own way. So you'll be able to move in and out of levels once you start to practice assessing where you are, assessing where others are, where the gaps are, how you can meet them where they are. So what do you believe your overall energetic level of communication is, and why? Do you think you're a level 1, you're fearful, you're disengaged, whatever, level 2, you're angry, level 3, you're forgiving and you're coping, level 4, you're feeling compassion, you're feeling for other people and walking a mile in their shoes, level 5, you're always looking for a win, you're always looking for an opportunity, it's for you to win and for somebody else who you're dealing with to win. Level 6, you're already always seeing people winning all the time, no matter what happens. Oh, I got my leg cut off in a freak accident. That's fine. I'm still winning. Weird to be at a level 6 at that point because all kinds of things can come up. But it's an extreme example so that you can say, well, people get shot. People fall off of cliffs. People get into car accidents. Some of them freak out, and some of them are traumatized, and some of them are calm, and they realize, you know what? There's a purpose in everything. And if I can find a purpose in everything, then I'm being proactive and I'm looking forward to that purpose. So so another question I have for you is, what do you attract as a result of your current energy and communication? So again, like if you said you're level 2, do you attract angry people? Do you attract people that are always trying to make you feel better because they think you're angry all the time and they know how to make you feel better or whatever? They can console you. Are you always a win-win? You're always attracting A-listers that are trying to, go get the things that they're after. What are you attracting? And one of the areas that you can look at if you want to go deeper in terms of the communication lesson and lessons that we're talking about today, you can always contact me directly, either get on my calendar and schedule a free consultation, or text me, DM me, that's what I mean by text, or you can hit me up in the comments of these videos and let me know, hey, what did you mean by that thing you said? Or hey, how can I know more about my energy level? Or hey, how can I know more about other people's energy levels? And we can have a conversation, we can figure it out. So write down your plan to adjust your overall communication level. Like if you're a 2 and you want to be a 5 because you know that would serve you better, then write down, okay, how am I going to get there? What am I going to not do anymore? What am I going to start doing? And I'm not saying you have all the answers, but what I'm saying is that you'll know for yourself where you're at, and you'll know what things are stopping you, your obstacles, internal and external, your barriers. And then you'll start to come up with, oh, if that's stopping me, I need to remove that. And then look at your energy level in those areas. If you say, well, I can't figure it out, well, then you're in level 1. You're in fear. You don't know what to do, so you don't take action. And again, like I said, if you have any questions, hit me up. Say, oh, what if I have this question? I can say, okay, try this to see what it would be like to be at the next energy level. And then play around with that to see how is my experience going now that I'm playing around with the next energy level. I did this for myself when I was in my training because we all get assessed as coaches from iPad Coaching on our energy levels, and we look at where are we, where do we want to go, and then we start to look at how do we start to get there through training like this. So let's get to the part called your core message. So earlier I talked about your core message being about you, and this is about your message communicating who you are to the world. It's not like, oh, I have this message about my business, etc. It's about how do you outwardly project yourself in your communication and what message is that sending. So an important first step in dynamic communication is knowing who you are and who you want to be as a leader. So remember back in segment 4, we created an ideal image of a leader. And you're now going to create the ideal image as you are a communicator. So you have the ideal image as a leader. We'll get the ideal image of a communicator. We'll put those two together. And you're starting to build the pieces of the puzzle to be an inspiring, conscious leader. You can refer back to that exercise and then see what you're going to see about what you wrote about being an ideal leader. So if you haven't done that, also go back and check the previous lesson in segment 4, where you can learn how to write down what is an ideal leader, how can I become that, how can I bridge the gap from where I am to where I want to be. Next, we're going to look at your ideal self, or your ideal image of yourself as a dynamic communicator. So here's some more to do for your notebook. List all the qualities you believe describe your ideal image of the communicator you want to be. Include your attitude, your belief, your behavior, and other characteristics you can think of, including the story behind what you do. So I'm a seamstress and I create fashion designs for drag queens, and they go on RuPaul's Drag Race and they go all over the world and they're celebrities. You could say that that's the story behind what you do. I don't do that. I'm a coach, obviously, because I'm here coaching. I'm not sewing somebody's dress somewhere. And where did that come from? My imagination. So how is that message conveyed in your marketing and in your other efforts? So all those questions are there for you to start writing down and considering for yourself. So out of those qualities of your ideal image, which is attitudes, beliefs, behaviors, and other characteristics you can think of, including the story behind that, of all those, pick the 3 to 7 most important items and write them down as a next area, because we're going to start working on that. So now what you want to do is you want to take the words as your ideal communicator and your statements and your phrases, and you want to use them in an affirmative tone. And instead of being passive, instead of saying, as a leader, I will be, write it in the active tense and say, as a leader, I already am, because you're already a leader. So as a leader, I am well-spoken. I am clearly understood. I am brief. I'm not brief, obviously. That's why it's taking so many videos. And so as a leader, I am whatever you want to say. Now, there's another chance if you're having trouble doing this, you can, again, contact me and work with me to focus on the content, the feeling that the energy evokes within you, and then we can get to work on, all right, so how does that forward the action of you wanting to be a dynamic communicator and an ideal dynamic communicator? So you can write the statement on a separate piece of paper so that you can easily refer to it throughout the day, and pay particular attention to how you feel when you read the statement. So you may want to journal or make notes over a period of time on the following questions. Here they are. Question number 1 is, how powerful and impactful does this statement make me feel? The statement you just wrote, as a leader, I am, awesome. I am well-spoken. I am brief. How do you feel when you read that? Question number 2, how do I feel my energy shift when I read it? Do you get empowered? Do you feel inspired? Do you feel like, no, that's not me? Do you talk down to yourself? Like, what are your emotions going on? And then what's that creating for you? We're not going to talk about levels of energy, just simply feelings. Question number 3, what changes am I noticing in my thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, and messages? Question number 4, how am I going to communicate effectively with others today? Question number 5, when I'm at my ideal, how differently might others be reacting and responding to me? So, because when you behave differently, people respond to you differently. Like if you come into a room and yell like a stark raving lunatic, people either will run or scream or be afraid or be like, what the hell? Or they'll be like, oh, that's just Francis. He's a stark raving lunatic. Or if you come into a room quietly and you observe everything and then you only speak when you have something important to say, and then people really listen because, oh my God, Francis is about to speak. He never speaks, which we know isn't true. And then the last question that we have, question number 6, what will be the result of this new level of communication? So what will you get out of it? What will the people you're communicating out of it get from you? Will they get more effective, clear communication? Will they be confused? They shouldn't be, because now you're empowering yourself as a dynamic, ideal communicator. So look at those anabolic things that they'll get. So now let's go on to listening. Before I said that there's 3 levels of listening. There's subjective, which basically means in general, in a nutshell, I'm listening to you, but I'm listening on my terms. I'm listening so that I can cut you off. I'm listening so that I can say something as soon as you're done. I'm listening so that I can get something out of it. That's subjective. What's in it for me? Objective listening is I'm actually listening to you, and I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say next. And I'm not plotting against you of, oh, you said that, so now I can say this. And I'm only saying some of these things because I've been guilty of all of them, and most of them don't work. And even if they do work, they don't work to an advantage that's helpful to anybody in the room. But objective is you're listening without taking yourself into consideration. But it only goes so far because you're not necessarily listening and relating. You're just listening to the point where you can hear and maybe even repeat it back and get where they're coming from, but you're not necessarily connecting. Then there's intuitive listening. So you're hearing not only what's being said, you're seeing how it's being said, you're hearing what's behind what's being said and what's not being said. Like if I'm sitting like this and saying, I'm so excited to go to the amusement park today, can't wait. You might look at me and be like, Why are you so sad? Why are you miserable? You think you're going to an amusement park. What's wrong with you? You can see it in my body language. And if I say, oh my God, I can't believe I have to go to my mother's funeral today. Like, you wouldn't be headbanging to that, because that would be a solemn moment. And you would be thinking, oh, okay. So when you're listening intuitively, you're going to be thinking to yourself, what is the person saying that they're not actually saying out of their mouth? How are they coming across? What is their energy, like their levels of energy that we've been talking about? And you're also going to look at, how can I be helpful to them in what's going on? So I want you to make a table in your notebook that's 2 side-by-side columns. And again, I'll tell you what to write. It's very simple. On the left, write how my energy level enables listening. So whatever energy level you assess yourself at, if you're a 4 and you're compassionate with other people, how does that enable you to listen to others? And then if you're a level 4 or even a level 2, how does that, on the right side, how does that energy level block your listening? So let's examine obstacles and opportunities that exist for you to listen effectively. Word situations, preconceived notions, certain people, physical stress, excitement, lack of trust in others and in ourselves, and fears are some of the things that get in our way of listening well. So use the space below to note the obstacles that get in your way of listening. It could be somebody farted in the room and you cannot wait to get out of the room, and you're listening to them and you're like, you know what, my boss just farted, but he's my boss. Should I stay or should I excuse myself and come back? Like, that could be an obstacle to listening. Kind of gross, right? But it probably caught your attention. Now let's look at another question. Here's where you can work with me again to identify ways to remove your blocks for listening. So for example, you might say, well, I'm angry all the time. I don't know how not to be angry. Not going to be a block for my listening. Francis, what can I do? Hit me up. Hit me up in the comments. Hit me up in the DMs. Get on my schedule and talk to me in a consultation, because some of you will find that it's very important that you are effective communicators, and you'll also find that you don't necessarily know how to do that best for yourself. Another question, how might you maximize the opportunity presented by what enables your listening? So when I say that, I mean, if you're level 4 and you're compassionate, how can you get the most out of being compassionate and be an even better listener? And then, how might your listening to your true self help you raise your energy level? So like, if you're a level 4, how could you be a level 5? How could you raise your energy level to like win-win? Oh, okay, now I'm going to be winning. So before, remember, we talked about subjective listening. I'll give you some examples of what that sounds like. A speaker could say, I'm really upset about our lack of profits. And then the subjective response could be, yeah, I worked really hard on this. Like, you're only talking about yourself. You worked hard on it. So basically the scenario is that somebody gets a message about, oh, our profits are down. And then they insinuate from that, well, maybe that means my performance sucked. So they're going to you now and telling you, oh, I'm really upset about our lack of profits. That's in every one of these scenarios, whether you're listening subjectively, objectively, or intuitively. So objectively, you could say, oh, it seems like you're very disappointed about the numbers. So you're hearing what they're saying, but you're not connecting to them. You're not forwarding any action. You're not helping them. You're not helping yourself. You're just like, oh, that's nice. You just feel this way about the profits. Intuitively, you might say, not only don't the profits reflect your effort, but it seems like you're feeling very stressed over this and what it may suggest. So you're empathizing, you're getting in there and you're reassuring them and saying, listen, just because numbers look a certain way doesn't mean it's your fault necessarily. Now, it might be that person's fault, but you don't have to necessarily listen from judgment. You could listen from opportunity and up your level. So basically, what are indicators that you can use to find out if you're listening subjectively when it's all about you, and when you do this? Write some examples. What are some indicators that of you listening objectively? Like, you're listening, you hear them, you're not really contributing or forwarding the action, but you're being present with them, which is still very valuable. And then what is the indicator that you're listening intuitively? Like, you're listening to them, you're reading and hearing between the lines, you're listening for what they need first and foremost so that they can have their needs met, so you can have a win-win. And then next to those ways that you wrote down that are subjective, objective, intuitive, when I'm listening subjectively, what are ways that I can shift from this level? Like, how can I listen objectively or intuitively? When you're being objective, how can you listen intuitively? So another thing that you're going to learn about in the next part of this training is 3 things. We're going to talk about building rapport in your communication, getting buy-in from other people when you're communicating with them, and resolving conflict. So this is the end of part 2. I'm looking forward to seeing you in part 3. We're also going to be talking about public speaking and the impact of your message. See you there.